Welcome to the Moving Humanity Forward podcast. My name is Kathy Malajani, and I'd like to invite you to join us every single week for inspirational conversations on success, resilience, as well as entrepreneurship. Now, each episode is going to dive deep into the stories of trailblazers. We're going to speak to change makers as well as visionaries, and we're going to be sharing insight into their journey and also hoping to inspire and ignite your journey as well as help to empower your next step. So we want to invite you also to subscribe every single week if you're on Facebook to MHF Podcast, and if you are on LinkedIn or YouTube, or if you are on TikTok, then you can simply look for Moving Humanity Forward Podcast. With that said, I want to bring it to this week's conversation and just look at the fact that the names that are widely known right now, we're talking big guns, and you'll know what I'm talking about when I mention these names very shortly. We're talking Slamba Tsokhwane, we're talking Mphoba Lupi, we're talking Me Dorcas Makhato, but also lesser known names like Dr. Maxwell Ntlato have actually thrown in their names. I'm talking about the BDP party presidency, right? So we also have another name, and this one for me was an interesting one, I think mainly because of the age of this particular candidate. He's a former BDP Executive Secretary, Ame Makoba. Ame, a very good morning to you, and welcome to the Moving Humanity Forward podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Kathy. Good morning, and thank you so much for the invitation. I'm honored. And hello to your viewers too.
Definitely. Now, you are a product of the University of Botswana student politics, right?
Yep.
So you actually started your leadership within BDP structures at the GS26.
Right.
And you also had... you pretty much rose through the ranks. You've served as the Gaborone Central Branch Secretary, if I'm not mistaken.
100%.
And you've also been in several subcommittees, I believe the Central Committee and the renowned PEC.
Right.
So perhaps let me not assume, and let me just get you to give us a bit of background and then take us a little bit into your journey, say a little bit politically and a little bit professionally, because I've bumped into you on stages as far as emceeing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, thank you so much, Kathy, for the invitation, and thank you for the beautiful introduction. I'm happy to be here. My name is Ame Makoba, a member of Botswana Democratic Party. As you did say, I started off my activism in BDP as a student politician in the University of Botswana, in a small unit of the party called the Cell, GS26. I was an activist growing through the ranks of that cell initially.
What drew you to politics?
Eventually, I became chairman of GS26. And I guess the rest is history that's still developing. I was drawn to politics by the desire to see people who are able to lead, guide, being in positions of leading and guiding, so that politics is not left only to those who cannot lead and guide when capable people are sitting on the sidelines. That's what drew me to politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you looked at it and said, you know what, I'm a leader, I'm a guide, I can do this. And that's how you got into it.
Absolutely. I believe I have something to offer, and I should not just sit back when I have something to offer and complain that those who are in politics and in the leadership of politics are not doing certain things right. When I have it within me to raise my hand and take to the stage of politics.
Okay. So take me through, you're part of GS26. You finished, what degree were you studying?
So at GS26, I was a student politician, like I did say. Student politics in University of Botswana, it's tough for Domkra. It has been historically since GS26 was formed in,
why is that?
in UB. So when we were student politicians ourselves, we also went through such an initiation. Now, the young enthusiastic people of the University of Botswana are often drawn to opposition politics. By then we were a ruling party, and maybe now that we're an opposition party, they will be drawn to us like they were drawn to opposition parties back in those days. I was a student of Bachelor of Science initially when I was at University of Botswana. I started off doing Bachelor of Science. I didn't do too well in it. I had to quit it along the way, and I moved on to Bachelor of Finance. So that was the first degree that I acquired from the University of Botswana during my student activism days. So I'm a graduate of finance.
Okay. So you graduated. How far up did you go in the ranks as far as the GS 26? Did you ever hold any leadership positions there?
Okay, I led GS 26, but when you have mentors and people who observe you as you grow within an institution, and in this case within a party, they try by all means to guide your energy to certain levels. So I was recruited to other structures of the party. For instance, I was then vice chairman of the Gaborone Central Youth Committee. I must have performed well, because later on I was then elevated to the position of chairman of the Gaborone Central Branch Youth. Those are elected positions, and eventually to a much bigger position still within the branch as a secretary of the branch.
The Gaborone branch.
The Gaborone Central Branch. Now, secretaries are engines, that melting pots of the institutions for which they hold those positions. So I was at one time an engine of Gaborone Central Branch, served in some subcommittees of the Central Committee, of course, and eventually to be CEO of the party, Executive Secretary of Domkraga at one other point in time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey of development and growth, politically speaking.
I want to know some of those names. You said when you are mentored by people, they often sort of guide your energy to the right place. Drop some names for us and tell us some of the people that mentored you, especially when you were coming up the ranks.
Yeah, it's my firm belief that every person that you interact with, one way or the other, does mentor you, right? So all the people I've interacted with in politics have played a very big role in my mentorship. But because I started my politics in Gaborone Central, the people who mentored me, I think one name that comes to mind is former Gaborone Central parliamentary candidate in the just past elections, Bunsi Monare, our former branch chairperson, Matupa Akhale, and of course the man who stood for the member of parliament for that constituency when I was there, Khomolemo Motsoaledi. Who gave me some mentorship, not just in politics, but because we also belong to a group called KTM Choir, which he founded and which he conducted, which I sang in under his guardianship. So those are some of the people that have mentored me through the years. There's more, but I just like to start off with those ones.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You've dropped enough names, and I think I'm going to learn so much more about you. Yeah. I didn't know you sang. Like, I'm tempted to ask you to belt something out for us this morning, but
if you ask me to sing and I don't sing well, I might decampaign myself for the next steps of my life. So let's not do that. Let's not do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went ahead, you finished your degree in finance. I'd like you to take me through this journey and also talk to me about how active you were, because I want to believe this is the time now where you are stepping up in the ranks, like you've just said, with the different positions within, especially the Gaborone Central branch.
Yeah.
And then, like you're saying, eventually getting to the position where you were at in terms of the Central Committee itself.
Yeah.
So take me through now what is going on for you at this point in time, professionally, personally, as well as politically. Just quickly take me through that time.
Yeah, by practice, even though I studied finance, I'm a communicator. I'm a stakeholder relations manager. I'm a people manager. So that's what I do for the most part as my practice in life. And I've practiced that professionally. One as a radio feature host here and there, as a television presenter, and as a event organizer and as a event leader. So I've practiced that for quite some years now. My stint in government as an employee of the government also helped me develop in that regard.
What were you doing?
I'm a former private secretary to one of the ministers in the former government.
Okay.
I then, along the way, caught the eye of an international company that has operations in Botswana, Canada, Namibia, United States of America, Mexico, big countries. Imagine, I caught their eye. and they recruited me to join the company as a director, government and stakeholder relations. So professionally, that's some of what I have done.
Mm-hmm.
You see, all these things have developed, sharpened, polished my love for leading, my love for people, my love for getting people to believe in something and working towards achieving that thing. So now, recently, the party that I belong to, Botswana Democratic Party, lost the general elections. I think it's a turning point.
I need you to pause there because that's something I want to,
Okay.
buttress on, and we'll segue on that. I want to just ask you to stick around, and remember, please go ahead and like our page on Facebook, MHF Podcast, and subscribe to YouTube, Moving Humanity Forward Podcast, and also on TikTok and LinkedIn. You can find us. Go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and like our pages so you can catch us every single week. Welcome back. This is Moving Humanity Forward, and I'm still with my guest, Ame Makoba. He's just touched on something that I think all of us as a nation just were not expecting, and that was the loss of the elections in 2024 by the BDP after 58 years. This was something that I do believe really was unexpected and quite historical, really, in the way that it all happened. So I want to now delve into that with as much detail as you can give us to say what went wrong. Were you expecting that? Was that something that you ever imagined or envisioned could happen?
Yeah, we got hit by a train. That's what happened.
Yeah. So you weren't expecting it within the party?
You know, around 2020 or 2021, I would have expected that the country wasn't doing so well. The entire world wasn't doing so well. So I would have expected such a backlash. But 2023, 2024, I think my opinion began to change.
Yeah.
Because things were moving up, things were looking up. So I did not expect such a bad showing for my beloved Botswana Democratic Party, quite honestly, in these elections. Of course, the performance, one would have expected that it won't be as good as it was in 2019, in view of all the challenges and in the view of the fact that people just changed their minds over time. I'm going
to want to get into a bit of detail about that, actually. But before then, were there any other Democrats that kind of had that idea to say, it doesn't look too good? Did anybody?
I think so. I think so. I think so. And I say so because, we've had a lot of people leave the party over time.
Okay.
One of the examples is the breakaway of the Botswana Patriotic Front. We lost a lot of members as a result, in the lead up to the primaries, after the primary elections, commonly called Bulela Ditswe, a lot of leaders who stood for positions also left the party, and they took along with them certain members. So you could tell one way or the other that we were losing some weight.
Okay, so I have a lot of questions because you watch these things, and I would like for you to share as much insight as you are comfortable sharing. So one of the issues, I can't remember which constituency it was, but I think Maun East or West, I can't remember. You took a very long time to field a candidate, and I think that was puzzling for me anyways. One of the other issues was the Bulela Ditswe being so close to the actual elections, which normally what we're used to is that you do your primaries at least a year before, because I think this is a common thing across political parties, is that a primary election will divide the party, and so you do it a year before so that you rebuild and unify the party beforehand. So then there was quite a bit of issues about the Good Hope Matete constituency that was just everywhere. There was a lot of media, if I can call it that, around that. And then also just the conversations that were being held at the different rallies. So I'd like you to speak to those, if you will. And also something else that I thought was really interesting. It was almost as if the party wanted people to vet themselves out. Because I remember there was quite an extensive vetting process and quite a number of people who didn't expect it, got vetted out. And then there was an extension. I think I recall having the conversation with somebody with, I think it was the communication manager within the party at the time, Mr. Banks. No, we're extending the period for you to withdraw your name, and we'll refund you your, I think, the application fee. So are you able to speak to some of these and just share what the thinking was behind it?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, the outcomes of all that you've said, because some of it have contributed to our loss. But you see, nobody sets out intentionally to distract an institution they love, like Domgrach, not when they're in leadership. And I don't think our entire leadership had the intention of putting the party in the state of being out of state power. I don't think that was what they set out to do from the onset. Leadership, I think, isn't easy. And whatever we may have seen as the public, as observers, and I speak not officially for the party, what we saw and whatever resulted us in having reservations, worries about the party, was after some very serious considerations behind the scenes by the leadership of the party. And it's unfortunate that members of the party may not have always liked it. It's unfortunate that it ended how it did.
Are you able to share any of these?
I don't think anybody set out to.
Are you able to share any of the reasoning as to, say, for example, why the primary elections were not held a year before the actual general elections?
I don't know for certain, because like I said, I don't speak for the party, but as a reasonable man, you would know that every 10 years, the constituencies and wards of the country are realigned and what have you. And that process comes after the population census has been held. But now, our population census, which was supposed to be held in, was it 2020 or 2021, was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and was pushed forward. And so constituencies and wards and what have you could not be realigned back then.
But there was some...
At the appropriate time that they would usually.
But there was something, I can't remember what exactly was done. Constituencies moved from 57 to 61, right? I think I remember Moditani became East and West. As top of my head, just some of the so there was some sort of changes or alignments done, right? And obviously at the time, BDP is the ruling party and government of the day. So all of this is within your power. So I want to believe you had that information. Yes, no?
I don't know, because I was not in the leadership of the party. And I still am not in the leadership of the party. Very soon I'll be contesting for the leadership of the party. So when my time comes...
Okay, so you're not able to speak to that. Are you able to speak to, like I'm saying, there were just a couple of things, the vetting process. Are you able to speak to any of those?
I think what we know publicly and what we saw is that a lot of people were disgruntled and dissatisfied with the outcomes. Generally of the application outcomes of the vetting and of the actual elections themselves. A lot of people were dissatisfied with that, and I'd be a hypocrite if I say that was not part of our problem in the just ended.
Okay, so you're not going to give me that insight on why these things happen. Fine,
I cannot, because I don't speak for the party.
But okay, let's do this. Let's now get to because you know, I think I mentioned some of these issues, and I wanted you to just kind of explain, you know, why there was no candidate in Maun, why what happened in Good Hope, Matete happened, why. But it's fine. Let's now look at the review. I believe actually a couple of meetings were held just this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken, and it was basically different branches across the constituency sitting down and saying what went wrong. So let me pose that to you. What went wrong?
The consent meetings are closed meetings from what I understand. But what I think generally we admit as members of the institutions, at least those I talk to, is that there was a lot of disunity amongst us. There was a lot of disagreement.
Caused
And
by?
subsequently, some decided that their vote could be used to punish a certain few that they didn't like, that they didn't agree with
Wait, so
at that time. But whatever happened, I don't think it's
let me
enough
ask
to
you this,
still vote
because
out your own party.
there was a lot of talk about that, actually. I mean, I work
Yeah.
on radio, and so that did come up, where people were saying, no, BDP is going to vote against BDP.
Yeah.
So did that come out in any of the meetings to say, yeah, no, we ended up not voting for 1, 2, 3 candidates because we didn't like what they were doing, or anything like that?
A reminder that the meetings are closed meetings. I don't know. I won't speak about the outcomes of the meeting.
Yeah.
But when we talk as friends
Yeah.
and members of the party, generally we do admit that there was a sense of disunity, dislike for one another, disagreements here and there.
Yeah.
And some use their vote to punish others. But I still don't think whatever wrong one may have done to you within your church, within your family, may be enough for you to sentence them to the sentence that Madam Kraga sentenced the institution.
Let me ask you this. Do you think BDP lost because you didn't have yourself unified enough? Or do you think the UDC just had a greater strategy than you did?
I think both apply. UDC promises were very juicy. There was no way we as a party were going to promise 4,000 pula minimum wage.
And we'll talk about that as well.
2.5 student allowance, 1.8 old age
pension. Yes.
pension.
Yes.
Because the maths was clear.
Yeah.
Our economy cannot in its current state.
When you talk economy, that's one of the things that has been put on many tables to say Botswana were not happy with what was going on as far as the way that the government was spending money.
Right.
Was that any of the feedback that you got? Because that was a big issue that people were saying, look, there's all these things happening. I know one of the other issues people had was they were, what do they call? There was a word they were saying, the president is traveling too much. We don't see him. Then there was a couple of bills that came.
Travel too much, even the new one.
Then there was a couple of bills that came through as well that the public really didn't want. I believe it was Honorable Moraing put forward a motion which he then withdrew, and so there were just all these issues that Botswana were just really unhappy about. Even the constitutional review, I remember seeing civil society striking, and I was quite. That for me was a first, because I've never seen the churches. When I say civil society, I mean churches also joining hands with CSOs. That wasn't the first time in the history of Botswana that I've ever seen churches standing up, and that was to do with the constitutional review and them saying it hadn't been conducted well. Did any of these that I've just mentioned rock up on the table, or just come up to say maybe this is what happened wrong in 2024?
As an observer standing outside, I could see those things going on. But for me, I was happy to see people expressing their concerns prior to and even during elections. Some have held a view previously that Botswana are very meek people who cannot speak for themselves, who cannot express their worry, who would rather just sit back, fold their arms and watch things play out, how they will play out. But I was happy to see Botswana express their concerns. And though I'm unhappy that my party lost elections, I'm happy at least that our democracy has been tested. We know it's strong, it's alive, and we know that appealing candidates can win elections. And we know that when people are dissatisfied with the government, with any people, they can vote it out. So this is the positive thing that happened for me in all of this.
Okay, let's come to 2025. There is a Congress coming up in July this year, and like I said when we started, there's some well-known names. Your Mpoba Lopi, your
Ame.
Well, your name is one of them.
Right,
Talk to me about that. What are you? Why are you trying to stand for presidency?
Yeah, I want to stand for the presidency of the Botswana Democratic Party because, one, I believe in its founding principles. As an institution, this is the constitution of Botswana Democratic Party. This is what forms Domkrag. This is what Domkrag is. I believe in its values: democracy, development, self-reliance, unity, and both. These principles I believe in.
Do you believe that BDP as a party is still what was formed?
I think it is. And it will get better in that regard if I were to lead
What
it.
is your
If Madam
take?
Kra give me the right to lead the institution.
What is your take on how, I think one of the biggest issues that we hear time and again regarding the way BDP governed was the issue of caucuses.
Yeah.
Because if I, have somebody I've elected to go and represent me, and then any issue that comes on the desk of parliament, the party goes to caucus and then everybody has to vote according to the party lines. Are you really representing me? What is that saying about our democracy and the BDP, if that is something that is widely now implemented and almost you get punished if you don't follow those party line caucuses?
It may be one of the things that we need to change. I believe that Domkrach needs to be rejuvenated. It needs to come alive. And perhaps we were not so lively and alive when it comes to discourse, when it comes to engaging your constituents, when it comes to engaging your media, when it comes to engaging whoever needs to be engaged, so that as a party you may form an opinion which is in line with what the people want, what the people think, what the people believe. But also, because you are a leader, sometimes what you believe is not necessarily what the people believe, what the people want, and which is where then your persuasion skills must come into play. Try to reason with people and make them see the light. Listen to them too, so that they help you see the light. I think the party perhaps needs to evolve to such a state, so that what it believes must not be the only gospel that it goes forward with. You were talking about caucus. If the considerations and conclusions of caucus need to be reconsidered, they must be guided by discourse and engagement with people. That's what I believe.
We're going to delve deeper into his strategy for 2029. Well, that is if he's successful in July of 2025 at the upcoming Congress. Don't you touch that button. In fact, if you're going to touch it, go ahead and subscribe. My name is Kathy Malajani. We continue in a bit. We're talking politics in this episode of Moving Humanity Forward, and we're trying to understand the strategy that is going to be implemented by a gentleman running for BDP presidency and potentially for the nation's presidency. He goes by the name Ame Makoba, and I have him telling us about his strategy for July 2025 and then potentially for 2029, that is if you win the BDP presidency ticket that you're looking to go into. Give us the strategy. What are some of the things you're going to put forward that you're planning on getting support from the party, to lead it?
When I run for the presidency of Domkrach,
why should someone vote for you?
Before anything, I believe that the institution must look and feel like it belongs to everybody. Young, old, rich, poor.
But that saying, what is it?
So I believe it must feel like...
Is that really something that you think Botswana can get behind, especially when we have heard that slogan so much?
I don't know for certain.
Okay.
But what I'll be
so
running...
you don't know about that slogan?
No, it's not an official slogan of the party. It's just a chant that people chant. And it's good, because I want my children but they will decide for themselves what they want to do. So
but don't you think that statement kind of excludes everybody else that's not a Domkracha, that kind of says, okay, so the people who belong to Domkracha are going to enjoy it and their kids as well?
It possibly does. It possibly does. But what I'm running with, I want it to look and feel that it belongs to everybody.
Okay.
That's one.
Okay.
Now, the state of affairs that we are in, the time that we are in, requires integrity and humility. To know that you are not it all. You don't have it all. You are complete as you are as a leader. You need to know that you need those characteristics as a leader in a time such as this one. But here's what I'm proposing to Domkrach. I think my institution needs to be renewed. You know the story of 1965, 1966, that we found the country undeveloped with very few roads, no hospitals, no schools, and what have you. Will not sell today. 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds will be voting in 2029. they're not going to understand that story. We need to renew and bring a message that is relevant for a time such as this one.
What is the message you're bringing?
I'll get on to that. And then we need to rejuvenate the institution. We need to rejuvenate it because, for instance, if you watched live parliament, Kathy, anyone who's watched live parliament in the previous parliament would know that the opposition then was always dominating debate, was always dominating the asking of questions and what have you. And even in platforms like yours, media, interviews, the opposition was always happy to do interviews more than the party that was ruling wanted to do that. So we need to come alive, rejuvenate, and bring people like, I hate to say it, but let me say it, like me, who want to take on the public, talk to the public, listen to the public, do that. Lastly, I think Domkraga needs a shared future. You know, many of the leaders that you have right now in parliament, in cabinet, in councils around the country are former members of Domkrag. They felt maybe in their youth or in their maturity that Domkraga was not a home for them anymore. The few that we have left, few, not really few, there are many that we still have left. We need to make them feel that they belong and that they can serve and advance this institution.
How do you plan to do that?
So that they don't go.
How are you going to do
like
that?
Those that we have lost? Give them a platform. Here's a platform. I've raised my hand. I want that platform. You do it with me. The others will believe that it's possible.
Okay.
And this principle, I don't think, should just apply to politics. You know, young people in Lekwabe, wherever around the country, need to believe that as long as they have a talent and an ability and they raise their hand in this country, they have a role to play.
I want to ask
they can be given a chance.
I want to ask you about funding, because that time and again, and I don't mean political funding, I mean campaign funding.
Right.
Because ultimately, anybody knows that when you're talking politics or running for any position, you're talking money.
Right.
Where are your sponsors coming from? Do you have finance behind you?
I'm looking for sponsors. Please sponsor me, Bahayat. Please sponsor me. I don't have them.
So
I don't have money, but I have very well-meaning individuals like you, and I know you might give me something after the show, who once in a while assist me with your airtime, your fuel for travel, and this and that.
Okay,
I belong to an opposition party.
So you're not going to share.
I don't
you're
have
not sharing your strategies about that. Okay, let's talk about some of the issues that are on the table right now.
Yeah.
GBV is something that, and it's almost as if every year over the festive season, we just get these shocking figures.
Right.
And honestly, when you really look at the strategies going on, I started in radio in 2010.
Yes.
And I can tell you that the figures that, come through from gender-based violence have increased every single year. This has been a scourge that has just gotten worse and worse and worse. And I believe internationally now, like we are the country that has the highest number of sexual assault cases in the world. What do you think we can do about that?
It's a sad state of affairs. Every man, every woman needs to understand that they don't own anybody. They don't own their partner. And so strictly speaking, they cannot control them. The only person you can control is yourself.
So
now, if another has angered you and you react by abusing them through whatever way, you are very responsible. You must take responsibility for your action.
How are we going to teach our nation what you're saying? Because what you're saying sounds good, but how do we teach the masses?
The best thing a brother can do for another brother is to keep talking to them. How are you doing, my brother? How is home? How's family? What do you guys do? How can I help you? How can I support you?
But men don't talk.
No,
you guys just like your men caves, and then you just want to.
No, men talk.
Especially when there are problems, you don't want to talk.
Men talk. In my experience, men talk, and maybe they should talk more, engage more with each other and with women. They should do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is now an issue behind a promise that was one of the mandates that the current government of the day actually got into power with, and that was the issue of the 4,000 Pula minimum wage.
Right.
I'd like you to weigh in on that.
Yeah, we're waiting for the for the 4,000 pulas. We people generally, not just me. When the current government was campaigning as an opposition political party, then they knew the status of the economy, and even if they didn't, even when our economy was best performing, whenever that may have been, I don't think the promise that they sold was possible.
So basically,
for a
you
country
don't
such
believe
as
that's going to happen.
I never believed it. I mean, the maths is there. The maths is there. The guidance is there of the public officers, of the economists, and so on. What you can do by certain political or economic decisions that you make can cause unrepairable damage to your economy. And one of the things that is likely to happen when you deliver on a promise like they made is inflation. I speak so as a student of finance, with an understanding of what happens when you put an avalanche of money with no matching productive capacity within the economy into the economy. There'll be more demand than supply.
You sound like you're speaking about a strategy that the BDP actually implemented quite a number of times. When you talk about taking a huge amount of money and putting it into pools, I mean, that's something that BDP.
I wasn't in the party leadership, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But here's what we need: we need honest politicians. We need honest politicians who talk to the public honestly. Look, we want the best for you as politicians. One day we would like for you to earn 4,000 pula, but it cannot happen now. But please give us a chance, and we will try to build up towards that. But some of this money that was promised to be paid at the end of November 2024 hasn't been paid. It's January 2025, hasn't been paid. And, the language and tone is now changing.
That actually leads me to, I think, one last point that I'd like you to touch on, and that is just now your role as opposition.
Yeah.
Because you are now an opposition party.
Yes, we are.
I want to know what some of the differences or contributions you can make, because you look at parties such as the BCP, and they have done, I think, quite a good job of always bringing attention to issues.
Yeah.
I'd like to think, often issues are sensationalized there, but for the most part, they have really, awoken the public, especially, to some of these.
Yes.
What do you think the best way forward, or the best foot forward for you as BDP now as an opposition party can be?
We need to come alive, and that's why I speak about rejuvenation. As an opposition party, as long as we remain an opposition party, we need to contribute to public discourse. And that's one of the things that I think I will be able to do if I were to take over the leadership of the party. We need to use our young people and to direct and put their energies to best use. And young people, I'm not necessarily talking about just me. There's a lot of them in Botswana Democratic Party. Give them a chance, harness their energy, and use it to speak about the issues that trouble our country. Surely they can contribute. The elderly should not be left out. They should guide, counsel the young ones and the young upcoming ones, and build for the future. This 58-year-old institution, I think, needs renewal.
Talk to me about what happens if you don't win in the upcoming Congress.
I'm going to win.
What happens if you don't?
I'm going to win.
Are you going to quit the BDP?
No ways.
So you're still going to stay within the BDP?
I'm going to win and stay within BDP.
Okay, so
yeah, I'm going to win and stay within BDP. But God forbid if I don't, I'll remain a member of the Botswana Democratic Party. Yeah. The contribution that I can make, that anyone can make, is not just that. Yeah, nothing. You don't only contribute when you are at the top. You can contribute
none
whatever.
Of the other parties can come and poach you.
I don't think they're interested in me.
If they were?
No, I wouldn't. I'm a member of Botswana Democratic Party. It's a heavy responsibility, and I want to execute it.
I want
loyalty.
I want to close off this conversation, Ame, with just letting you speak to the listener, to the viewer, and just get them to, or maybe make them see why they need to be voting for you in the Congress in July 2025, and also in the next general elections in 2029.
Right. All right. Thank you so much. Now, dear viewers, if any BDP members are watching this show, I'd like to invite you to work with me on a journey that I've started, a journey to grow together, a journey to build together, a journey to work with a teachable and trainable leader, a leader that you can mold into the kind of leader that you want for a comeback possibly in 2029, and if not, for a future that we will walk in together. We need renewal, rejuvenation, and to create a shared future where each and every one of us can feel that Patie, Kiaronarote, we all belong, we can all contribute. So thank you for the support that I'm expecting from you. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you so much, Ame. And that's how we close off this episode of Moving Humanity Forward. It's been an absolute pleasure to hang out with you. And I do trust next week, same time, same place, you will be able to come and catch yet another riveting episode. My name is Kathy Malajani. I like to tell people that ke nna le tebelele le ntshonyana, tla ke tsena kwe, ke lebogele nako ya gago.